Good afternoon. This is Doug Browne with Farm Bureau, and I'm here at our offices in Commerce, over in the Crossroads, if you know where we are. The reason why we're live here today on Facebook is to help you navigate no-fault reform, and I want to simplify it for you. We are starting back up again with our series, and the reason why is that we could get way more complex if we wanted to go along here and do that, but I just don't see the point in that. It's a very simple concept, and let's just keep it that way. So one of the things that we're looking at here, as far as our no fault is concerned, is taking the whole format and simplifying it into three easy parts. The three parts we're talking about here are: number one, PIP, personal injury protection. This is the medical coverage part of your auto insurance, and this is the biggest change that we're going to see. The second item, bodily injury liability, also known as BI liability, and it's going to have to change because you're going to become a little bit more exposed to lawsuits in the future as other people choose different coverages than they currently have. Finally, item number three, who to insure and where. And that comes or becomes a little bit more complex than something we're seeing right now, and I'll show you why in just a couple of minutes. Talking about personal injury protection, PIP. PIP has been unlimited in the state of Michigan since the 70s. We've had unlimited medical coverage if we're injured in an auto accident. That's changing. It's not going away, but it's changing. Beginning July 2nd and thereafter, when your policy renews, you're going to have the opportunity to choose three different limits. Again, this is on a simplified basis. There's actually 6 limits, and the last 3 get more complex than you want to hear about right now. So these 3 limits are going to be unlimited, and then $250,000, and then $500,000. The reason why these limits are going to be your choice is that you can choose to reduce your limits from the unlimited level that they are right now. Bear in mind, if you go to $500,000 or go to $250,000, that your coverage will still be at the highest level available in every one of the 50 states of these United States. Every other state is able to survive with lower limits. Michigan is trying to give you a choice to make that move. The choice that you make will be decided by a couple of factors: family decisions, economics, things like that. So let's take a closer look at what you have at risk depending on the choices that you make. What you have at risk now is going to be your level of medical exposure, and there's another level of risk, moving on to item number 2, that the no-fault laws are going to bring up, and that is bodily injury liability. As you're making your choice as to which level you want coverage for your family at, the other guy's making a similar decision, and he may not choose the unlimited. Here's the problem. If you're in an accident with this other guy and he has chosen $500,000 or $250,000 as his limits, and you're found to be at fault, well, a certain issue is going to emerge, a certain thing's going to happen, and at that point in time, he could come after you. And he's coming after you on a third-party basis, where he is suing you, hoping to recoup his losses from your insurance company. That's a third-party claim. A first-party claim is what's going on right now, where his insurance company insures his car and his insurance company insures his body. First party, him and his insurance company. Third party, him goes through you, goes to the insurance company. I had someone today ask me, so does this mean we're no longer a no-fault state? Well, frankly, we are still a no-fault state when it comes to your car. But when it comes to your body and your medical needs and your coverage in the event you're injured in an auto accident, all of a sudden we're going to be seeing a lot more litigation. The lawyers, I'm sure, are finding another way to litigate these things. So they're in the process right now so that they can resolve this issue. And this issue I'm talking about is that under the new laws, if the other person doesn't have enough insurance for himself, he's going to look to you. Pure and simple. The next thing you want to be aware of is the limits for bodily injury liability. Currently, if you're one of my clients, it's more than likely that you have $250,000 over $500,000 limits, which is reflected right here. Item number 2, $250,000 to $500,000. The reason I'm talking about this right now is that this is going to be your line of defense if the other guy comes after you in a lawsuit. And we frankly are advocating that you look to the higher limits of $500,000 over $500,000. By the way, this first number stands for per person in an accident, and this second number stands for everybody in the accident. So once you've got 500 and 500 in place, then we move to the next discussion. And that's going to be what it is you're protecting. What it is I'm protecting for you. What your family has at risk. And if you're a high net worth individual, in this case I'm using 500,000, we want to put an umbrella over the top of the bodily injury limits that we're using for your liability protection. By putting $1 million umbrella over the top of this, when the lawyers come after you, they're going to say, okay, Mr. Browne doesn't have to pay that extra $500,000 of medical that my client suffered because my client only had $250,000 of PIP coverage. So in this case, Mr. Browne, that's me, Mr. Browne's bodily injury liability saved his butt because the other guy came after me. That's the key. I now have to put a greater line of defense in place against the other guy. Again, Michigan is going to remain a no-fault state when it comes to your car, but when it comes to your body, it's going to be anybody's guess. And it's going to depend not on the decisions that you make, but on the decisions the other guy makes. And that's the gist of this. We've got to be a little bit more proactive in protecting ourselves because our state laws are changing. For the better, for the worse, it's too early to say right now. But as you navigate this no-fault reform for yourself and for your family, give us a call. We can go ahead and run the different numbers and the costs, the premium that's involved in different decisions so that you can make an educated decision for yourselves. Here comes item number 3. And item number 3 talks about driver inconsistencies, your responsibilities. I call it the uncharted territory because it is way different than anything we've had in place before. Up until now, we had this breakdown, this layout on the left-hand side of this upcoming screen in place. V-SOTA. In an accident, you looked for PIP protection to the victim's policy or to the spouse's policy or someone in the household's policy. And if those policies couldn't cover you, then you looked to the owner of the vehicle involved or the driver of the vehicle involved. And finally, you were faced with going to assigned claims, which has a $250,000 limit. Moving forward, we're eliminating the vehicle entirely, and the V-SOTA becomes VSA. And VSA is only going to cover you as the victim and your spouse and household. There is no vehicle involved any longer as we look for someone to pay the bills. This is the key issue in terms of the no-fault aspect of no-fault insurance falling off. You no longer have a car to look to. You've got to depend on yourself for your coverage if you're injured in an auto accident. And this is why I say very strongly, make sure and put up that line of defense with those bodily injury liability limits as we discussed in item number 2. Moving forward, we're again summarizing what we've been talking about for the last month and a half. Again, you've got 3 main topics, 2 primary decisions, and 1 responsibility. The primary decisions are simple. One is your medical protection. Are you going to keep it limited, or are you going to take it down to $500,000 or $250,000? Item number 2 with the primary decisions, that bodily injury liability I will not stop talking about because we got to put up a wall of defense for you. And finally, your responsibility. And to summarize on your responsibility, do you have any drivers in your home who are not resident relatives? Yes or no? Secondly, do you have any autos in your home that are not personal autos personally owned by you? Pretty simple stuff. If your auto situation is at all unique, give us a call because that's where we're going to want to talk about your different options. And believe me, we really get into the weeds on that one. It's a pinball discussion where, because of this decision, we go over there and then we come back over here and we come over there. It goes on and on. But again, it's way beyond what we want to talk about right now. That's all I've got today. Again, I want to simplify this whole thing for you and stay away from those in-depth decisions if they don't apply to you. Let's just keep it simple so that you can properly be the guide for your family, so that you can properly get yourselves insured, and we can all live happily ever after. That's it for now. Thanks for stopping by.